Hard to be long enough.
Word of the day is dogma.
Is it like a sigma?
No. And it's also not the mother of a dog.
I got that one. I know that.
Anyone know what dogma is? Yeah, Eliana? So did you say an order?
Yeah.
It's similar to an order, but that's not really what the meaning is. You'll see what I mean in a second. Anyone know dogma or dogmatic?
Yeah, wait, no, that I actually do.
Yeah.
It's like a character trait, like pragmatic. No.
So dogma is a principle or set of rules laid down by an authority as incontrovertibly true, meaning like absolutely without any possibility. So Muhammad's identity as a prophet is a core tenet in the dogma of Islam. So it's like an order, but in belief, kind of like you must believe that this is true, or like this has to be true. Oh, for those who haven't been oh, sorry, not even for those who haven't been in my English classes. This is a general thing. Word of the day is for your own knowledge. You don't have to write it down, but we're also going to have other morning routines or other like beginning of class routines, which we'll introduce as the year goes on. So we're going to also start rhetorical term of the day. And I think I told you on day one to have like a list of where you wrote definition of rhetoric and all this stuff. These you should write down the word and definition. You don't have to write down the examples. This is one we talked about yesterday, but I thought this would be a good first word. Diction is what? Word choice is good, yeah. Right, so choice and use of words and phrases in speech or writing. You could just say word choice if you want it short. For example, the speaker's disapproving tone was evident from his use of angry and condemnatory diction. And one of the things that you're going to have to get good at doing in order to read and to write is being able to clearly and eloquently describe someone's diction, because that's really where tone, most of tone you get from diction. All right, I'm going to start passing something out. Oh, actually, not yet. I won't pass something out yet. There will be 2 homework assignments over the weekend. One is a Google Form one, another SOAPStone. The other is a writing assignment that is a like personal writing assignment. Okay, and we'll go over them at the end. Okay, let's talk briefly about the 9/11 speech. I read your entries. Very good for the most part in terms of your accuracy and your elaboration. Was there anything that you had questions on, or that you struggled with, or that you were surprised by when you checked my answers versus yours? Yeah.
I think the purpose specifically for this speech, because there were like a bunch.
Yeah, there were a bunch. Yeah.
So that was.
Yeah. Right. So I think I had like 10 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shava?
I think I don't know what it's called, persona like that.
Yeah.
I was a little confused because you wrote all about how he's a Christian and stuff like that, and like I don't know, I wouldn't have.
Right, and this is something also that like I told you guys not to research anything. I said go based on what you know. So I grew up with George W. Bush as a president, and so I was relying more on my knowledge. But what element of his speech was very Christian?
When you talk about how God and he did that song or whatever.
Yeah, you'll find that I think all presidents talk about God. Like even Trump will talk about God, even though he's not like, I wouldn't describe him as a religious man, but quoting a psalm is something that like typically only religious people do,
You should have inferred that.
I'm not saying you should have necessarily inferred that, but it's something that I saw in it because I knew him. Yeah, Emily?
I was shocked that he had so many purposes. I thought that you meant more on a broad scale, not. Yeah. Yeah, not like the specific.
Yeah. So this is something that you'll find when you do SOAPStones, which is that, like I keep on saying, there's no one right answer, but it depends on how deep you want to go into the thing. So you could just say the general purpose, but what do you think? You got to do a little SOAPStone on me. What was my purpose in writing 10 reasons in his speech?
At least you had one that was.
That might be that is true. Yeah, that's not the main reason though. What did I want you to see about his speech? That he was trying to accomplish a lot in this speech, and you can imagine why. I mean, it's possible when he was writing the speech, or when whoever wrote it. You can imagine this could go down as one of the most important speeches in modern American history, because it was on the night of the biggest attack that has ever happened to us. So I just want you to kind of appreciate and be impressed by how much he had to try to accomplish in this one speech. And it was a short speech too, right? Like 5 minutes. Did anyone watch the video? Yeah. Some of you, Eliana, you said that his Delivery could have been better. Yeah,
I love the delivery. That was so
Well,
common.
it's very common compared to certain people who speak now. But, yeah, but you're right. Yeah, I think there's room for critique and room for praise. Yeah, Leah?
I don't really understand the difference between purpose and subject. So I feel like I mixed those up.
Yeah, so I'll repeat the answer I gave last time, but it'll be clear today when we go through more examples. You can give let's say a speech about, name any random topic. Just give me an example. Tissues, right? You can give a speech about tissues, so that'd be the subject, right? Tissues are great. And you could give that same subject speech for different purposes. So I could say, so what would be one reason why you would give a speech about the greatness of tissues? To get people to buy the tissues, if you're a merchant and selling them, right? What would be another reason? To get people to use them, right? Let's say, like, you know, those people, I apologize if I'm offending anyone here. People who would just sit there all day sniffling, and you just want to be like just use a tissue, like, you know. So so you start talking, oh, tissues are great, they're so absorbent, they're hygienic, you know. So that's an example, same subject, different purposes.
Right, but how do you go not get into the trap of like talking about every different topic in the speech when you talk
In the subject?
Yeah.
Is same way that when we when you I'm just trying to think of an example that'd be familiar to you. Like when we did a pasuk in Mishlei, and you'd have to come up with a title. You have to kind of ask yourself, like, what was this about? And like boil it down to one idea that affects everything. That's kind of like that's my style of doing subject in the SOAPStone. But theoretically, again, if you wanted to go in depth, you could say that you could like list each one of the subjects he did, you know? Because remember, the point of a SOAPStone is to help you to read and understand and unpack the rhetorical decision. So you could go as in depth as you want. Yeah. Yeah, Ayala?
So it was confusing me though, because for some of them, yours were more general than
Yeah.
them, but for some of them, yours are more specific than them.
Right. And again, that's totally fine. That doesn't mean that yours were wrong. It just means that either I felt I wanted to write more, or that like I saw that it would be clear if I made it more specific. And sometimes the clarity comes from being concise. So yeah, that's something you're going to have to get a feel for on your own. Yeah. Okay. So what we're going to do today is I wanted to reinforce this by doing two more examples, but have you guys, obviously I'm not here for your other classes. Have you guys done Chavrusa work yet?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. So I don't intend to do a lot of Chavrusa work in this class, but I thought that today would be a good way to do it. So I'm going to pass out this speech. I'm going to read it to everyone, and then you're going to break into Chavrusas and try to fill this out, do a SOAPStone on your own. Okay? So take one, pass it down. And then I'm going to give you this blank sheet to fill it in on, so you don't have to do it in your notes. There you go. Okay, so this is, oh, sorry, I didn't read, I forgot to put the intro blurb on here. Could someone just read the intro blurb?
On September 3rd, 1939, King George VI, I don't know,
Sixth. Yeah.
Okay, of Britain gave a radio address to the British people declaring war on Germany. It was broadcast to the entire British Empire, which constituted a quarter of the world's population at the time. It was his first speech as a king.
Okay, so that's the setting. Okay, it was his first speech. Britain is going to war, and do anyone know who this King George is in relation to? It's Queen Elizabeth's father. Okay.
How do you know that?
Anyone else watch The Crown?
No, I watched The Crown, but I'm interested in monarchy.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah,
I can go back as far as
No,
Victoria.
it's good, but
that's pretty impressive. Okay, has anyone ever seen the movie The King's Speech?
Yes.
It is an excellent movie. I rewatched it over the summer. If you want an excellent movie, then that is one. How's that for great rhetoric? But it centers around this speech. Okay, so I will read it, and you can think about it, and we'll split into chavrusas. Okay. In this grave hour, perhaps the most fateful in our history, I send to every household of my peoples, both at home and overseas, this message, spoken with the same depth of feeling for each one of you as if I were able to cross your threshold and speak to you myself. For the second time in the lives of most of us, we are at war. Over and over again, we have tried to find a peaceful way out of the differences between ourselves and those who are now our enemies, but it has been in vain. We have been forced into a conflict. For we are called, with our allies, to meet the challenges of a principle which, if it were to prevail, would be fatal to any civilized order in the world. It is the principle which permits a state, in the selfish pursuit of power, to disregard its treaties and its solemn pledges, which sanctions the use of force or threat of force against the sovereignty and independence of other states. Such a principle, stripped of all disguise, is surely the mere primitive doctrine that might is right. And if this principle were established throughout the world, the freedom of our own country and of the whole British Commonwealth of Nations would be in danger. But far more than this, the peoples of the world would be kept in the bondage of fear, and all hopes of settled peace and of the security of justice and liberty among nations would be ended. This is the ultimate issue which confronts us. For the sake of all that we ourselves hold dear, and of the world order and peace, it is unthinkable that we should refuse to meet the challenge. It is to this high purpose that I now call my people at home and my peoples across the seas, who will make our cause their own. I ask them to stand calm and firm and united in this time of trial. The task will be hard. There may be dark days ahead, and war can no longer be confined to the battlefield. But we can only do the right as we see the right, and reverently commit our cause to God. If one and all we keep resolutely faithful to it, ready for whatever his service or sacrifice it may demand, then with God's help we shall prevail. May he bless and keep us all. Now, you split into chavrusas. Remember, you don't have to go in order in filling this out, and you can draw upon your own knowledge to do this, okay? Go ahead, I'll give you like 5 minutes, okay? Just get as far as you can.
So I got the middle and I got the end.
Kind of tell us he was like serious.
Are we doing this okay?
Joining the war is definitely the context. Okay, yeah. Did anyone?
Just had war and like people didn't want you, so it's kind of the context.
Okay, good. Anyone give any more like historical, more historical context along those lines about what was going on? Yeah.
I mean, like, no, occasion of it is it was his first speech as king, but it was also it was a lot more just so much history behind it.
Okay, can you give us an
There's really a lot
example?
of history behind it.
Just one
So
example.
long.
I know for a fact you give an example because I was eavesdropping on you and Leia, so I heard what you said. I'm just trying to get you to say it.
That he became king not by choice, it was by force. His brother was king before him, and because he abdicated to marry someone else, which wasn't allowed, whatever, long story, we're not going there. He decided that he had to be the strong one and lead and be right. So after his brother abdicated, he did not take the name of Edward IX. He took the name of George VI, who was his grandfather was George V, who led the country in World War I with great strength. So he decided to take a name with great strength to show his country that we're going to do this and we're going to win.
Okay, so this isn't the reason why I wanted Adina to say this. This is an example when I said that when you were doing an analysis of something, you also have to draw upon all of the knowledge that you have, even if it's not in the text, and ask yourself what knowledge helps you to understand the rhetorical decisions and which one, what knowledge doesn't. So as Adina said, this was a period of turmoil and chaos because of what the country is about to go through, but also because of what the country was going through, of the king abdicating. What does it mean to abdicate? Giving up your throne, which doesn't happen. Like, that's not a thing that typically happens in the world. And the fact that Britain had been through World War I, which was very bad. And so that, according to Adina, is larger context. And also the information that she just gave, what else would that shed a lot of light on in the SOAPStone? Speaker, right? So that's background information about the speaker. Okay, good. So that again, that's an example of drawing on your own knowledge. I put here, so the occasion is the king's need to inform his people of the war with Germany. And this is something that, again, like, you're used to living in a world of internet, right? Where you can look on the news, or sorry, look online. They were hearing that their country is at war on radio from the king, right? So like, they would not know that they're at war if the king didn't tell them. Context is the rise of Nazi Germany, which posed a threat to Britain and to the world. Exigence is the exigence for his speech is declaring war with Germany, and that itself was in response to Hitler invading Poland. And again, you could go infinitely into the history here, but again, the question for exigence is what creates the need for him to speak right now? Well, right now they are in war, and if he doesn't speak now, it would be bad because then the country wouldn't be prepared. Okay. Any questions on the occasion and context and exigence? Yeah.
If we were like doing this, like, okay, you do this for an assignment, would you suggest like researching the time period? Because like, I know this stuff, but I wouldn't necessarily think 1939 and
right.
it all pop in my head.
So here,
like,
this
I know it from history, but I don't
right.
know exactly when it happened.
Right. So this is going to be an interesting challenge this year because when I taught this class for the AP, then I'm preparing students for writing a timed essay on the AP where they don't have access to any other information. So they're necessarily limited. Here, I'm kind of preparing you for writing in college, where you will be expected to do research. So the answer will probably be yes, but the question is to what extent. And that's going to be determined by what types of knowledge do you think will help you to unpack the rhetorical decisions made by the author. That's my general answer. Yeah, Liana? Sure. Yeah. Yeah. You can find. Okay, good. Okay, oops, sorry. Audience. Who is the audience? All right, immediate audience is the British Empire, and who is the mediated audience?
The whole world.
The whole world, right? Okay, good. And if you had to divide up the whole world? Allies and enemies. Yeah. So the reason why am I not including the whole world or the enemies in the immediate audience? He was not addressing them. That's the thing. They all might be hearing it, Emily, but he's not talking to Hitler, right? He knows Hitler's going to hear it, but he's not talking to Hitler. And same thing with the with his allies. Yeah.
Not necessarily this speech, but other speeches.
Well, so the Lou Gehrig one, all the immediate audience were the people in the stadium,
Right.
and the people listening on the radio, right? Who had tuned in for like Lou Gehrig Appreciation Day, right? So those are, I mean, it's reasonable to assume he was talking to them,
okay.
right? Yeah. And then what was the other, and then the George Bush thing, similarly, right? Is that he was talking to the American people themselves.
We also said that the media audience was the terrorists. Or like,
Right, because he did address the terrorists in his speech, right? Didn't he say like wherever they are, we'll find them in any countries that are, yeah.
This is a small point of his broader speech.
Well, it was a small point, but it was whenever you're seeing those like this, if you're talking about a 5-minute speech, then every minute and every second counts. And so, whereas if you're talking about like a 5-hour, lecture, then then a small point is a small point. Okay. Purpose.
Maybe we can do,
Yeah, I just set it up differently here. Yeah, purpose.
prepare
Yeah, go ahead, Emma.
the nation to go to war.
To prepare the nation to go to war. That's clearly one of the purposes.
Convince people to get on board.
To convince the people to get on board with it. Good, right? Because just because your country's at war doesn't mean you support it, and he wants their support. Anything else?
To put their best foot forward.
Okay, to put their best foot forward.
Comfort them.
Okay, comfort is an interesting thing. Well, can you think of I know what you mean. Can you think of a better word than comfort? Yeah, Leona? Okay, there is a lot of empathy in a speech, a demonstration of empathy. Encourage is good. I was thinking maybe reassure.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, right, because like I associate comfort with like tragedy or something like that, but you're not wrong. I just, I think, so I put here to announce to his British subjects that Britain was at war with Germany, to explain why the war was necessary. That was like what Ayala said earlier. To call upon his people for their support and to reassure them that they will prevail. Right, he is definitely, I mean, this is going to get into tone, but he's definitely trying to strike an optimistic tone, not a doom-saying tone, right? He's not like, well, fellows, this is it. We're going down with the ship, right? Speaker. So we had a detailed answer from Dina already, but pretty good.
The king, the leader, and
Someone who doesn't want to
Yeah.
go to war.
Okay, good. Yeah, these are all good, right? So George VI, the king of the British Empire, leader of the good guys, right? He's definitely portraying the other people as bad guys. Defender of justice and liberty, beloved monarch, or at least hopefully beloved monarch, right? He hopes people will love him. Reassuring father figure of the Commonwealth, right? He has to be the one who's leading this is an empire at this point, leading a large percentage of the world into this battle. And then how do you describe the tone?
reluctant.
Okay, those are good. Yeah, I agree with those. Informative, right? Is that I'm delivering the facts. What else? Solemn is good. I like that. What did I put here? I said intimate yet authoritative. How is it intimate?
We.
He says we. Good. How did he introduce his speech? I don't have a copy in front of me.
I wish I could be with
I
all-
wish I could be with all of you, right? He wants to feel close. This is not the removed monarch, speaking from on high. Factual yet dramatic in a historic sense, not dramatic like teenage drama, but like like he's telling you this is an important thing that the fate of the world depends on. But he's also just conveying the facts about what's happening. Nationalistic, right? Very proud of Britain and the empire, but emphasizing common human values like justice and what was the other value he mentioned? Liberty. Realistic yet confident, right? He's not saying we're gonna win no matter what. That'd be like unrealistic, and it's somewhat inspiring in the sense of like we can unite, we could take the charge. You can imagine yourself listening to this and feeling like, okay, we are the British, we can do this. Yeah. Okay. I was going to have another Chavrusa thing, but I don't think we have time for that. So I'm just going to pass out this next one. And we'll just do it really quickly. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you'll notice that there are 2 soapstones on this. Can you figure out why there are 2?
Oh, we're doing on these.
on the
I
picture.
thought the picture was just there for decor.
No, this is the text. So why are there 2?
There's 2 subjects.
Nope. I'll give you a hint. It has to do with the speaker.
Oh, you want the person who's writing the cartoon and the cartoon itself?
Yes. So there's anyone know what it says? Who's this kid? Calvin, right? Did any of you read Calvin and Hobbes when you were? Yeah. Okay. Right. So we're going to do one soapstone on Calvin's statement, and the other on Bill Watterson's statement with the cartoon. Okay. So
Which one are we doing first?
we're going to do Calvin first. So take a moment. Just get the shot of the cartoon if you haven't had a chance to read it yet. Okay, you were the first one to laugh. That's a first. Yeah. So what's like for those who don't get the joke, right? Explain like what.
It's like he's going into the yard and making this crazy mess and going and telling his mom, "Oh, I couldn't avoid it." But
Exactly.
in reality, he couldn't.
Yeah. Okay. Good. All right. So really quickly here. So Calvin, for those who don't know, is a rascally little kid who tries to get out of trouble, at least in this case. So what would you say the subject of Calvin's statement is? The subject of Calvin's statement. Well, he only makes one statement, by the way. It couldn't be avoided. So what is, if you're analyzing that,
Fun doesn't have to be.
you're thinking of Bill Watterson. What? Yeah? Good. Calvin's explanation for why he's covered in mud. And you are correct that it's a lie, right? That is what Calvin's subject is, okay? What was the occasion that made Calvin say this now? He was covered in mud and his mom caught him, and why does he have to say anything at all?
He's bringing mud into the house.
She's upset. Okay, right, good. And probably expecting, right, expecting him to say something to explain the situation, right? So getting caught covered in mud, in mud by his mom, who is now angry and is expecting an explanation now, right? That's what's prompting his statement. Who is the audience of Calvin's statement? His mom. And is there anything else we could say about his mom other than just that?
She looks angry.
Angry mom, right? So I should have written that there, right? Calvin's mom who is angry. Purpose. What was Calvin's purpose? This Ayala started to say. Ayala Tarabello. Getting out of trouble, right? His purpose is to offer a false explanation to his mom in hopes of mitigating his punishment and her wrath, right? In hopes of like reducing the punishment and wrath. And then what tone do you think Calvin was using when he said this?
Sweet.
Yeah, sweet, innocent. Okay, good. Sorry. I made a mistake here. I meant to divide this into 2, to say the tone that he was trying to strike and then the underlying emotion. So the tone he probably tried to use is innocent, but his real intention, like what do you think his real attitude is towards this? Annoyed at his mom being annoyed, you mean? Could be.
I think he's like, feels like he is really wrong.
I'd say.
Yeah, I admit, by the way, I'm using my knowledge of Calvin here. I'm not from outside of the cartoon. I don't, me knowing Calvin, he is not apologetic and not repentant, and he's a little bit defiant, but he also doesn't want to get in trouble, you know? Yeah, but you're right, but he probably used the tone of voice of innocent and like, trying to evoke sympathy, right? Now, Bill Watterson is the author of Calvin and Hobbes. This is going to be a little bit speculative, okay? What do you think Bill Watterson was trying to talk about through this cartoon? Right? Cartoonists are social commentators.
Oh, and people are like, oh, like this can be avoided, but like you see them doing everything, and it's like they're just trying to.
Okay, good. That's a good example. Yeah.
Cover up their mistakes.
Yeah. You got it. Let's see what I rationalize and stuff. Yeah. So I put how his subject is how we fabricate explanations to rationalize our misdeeds, how we make stuff up as excuses. Okay.
He like titles his.
No, he doesn't.
So is that his subject?
Bill Watterson's, yeah, Bill Watterson's subject in making this cartoon. Now, what prompted Bill Watterson to write this cartoon, to draw this cartoon?
It was written in 1985.
Yeah, this one I also didn't provide the knowledge, but you might know this just from your knowledge of culture.
People were very much like, oh, this is
The
my
Vietnam
fault.
War.
It was,
Family.
Where would you, if you wanted to find a comic today, where would you find it? Newspaper, right? So what do you think made Bill Watterson write this comic?
something that news.
How
that
family
people were
are-
trying to
People read newspapers.
It was a daily comic strip. It was his job, right? Is he had to write it because he's getting paid for it, and this was his job?
In the newspaper?
Yeah, this is a newspaper comic strip for all those years.
Like meaningful, like something was going on in the world.
So sometimes you can figure that out from the cartoon, right? Like if the cartoon clearly has a social commentary, then yes. Here, maybe something was going on, but we don't have any way of knowing that. Okay, I don't even know what date this was published. Who is his audience? Now, obviously, it's newspaper readers, but who in the newspaper readers do you think he was aiming this at? Maybe parents and kids, right? Okay, I said his readers, people who have done things like this either as kids or as adults, parents who have been in Calvin's mom's situation, right? These are the people who are going to laugh because either like, oh, I totally did that when I was a kid, or like, oh, my kid totally does that, or I empathize with a mom. What was his purpose in writing this cartoon? And again, here we kind of have to guess based on the situation.
Pointing out like something in human
So
nature.
one is pointing out something in human nature, and if you know about Bill Watterson, he was a philosophical comic artist. Yes, Calvin and Hobbes are both thinkers, right? What might be another purpose in him writing this? To entertain, yeah. So I think it's those two things, to entertain and to spur thinking about human behavior, which is what he often did. And then what tone do you think Bill Watterson, remember, tone is the author's attitude towards the subject. So what do you think Bill Watterson's attitude is towards the subject of how we fabricate explanations to rationalize? You think that he's writing this as like an annoyed thing?
Oh, like a funny.
Yeah, little funny, like bemused or amused, entertained, tongue-in-cheek, sympathetic. Like I kind of like feel for people who have to feel like they have to do this, you know.
So it's a very heavy trait in human nature.
It is, but if he made a comic of someone murdering somebody and lying, that would convey a heavy like cartoon. This is like a kid getting, trying to get out of trouble from his mom, you know?
Nobody
Yeah.
reads this and gets sad.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and it is a comic. It's not a tragic. Yeah. Okay, so the last thing we're going to do for today is I'm going to talk about the assignments that we're going to have. Take out your, actually, first let me pass this out, okay? Your first Google form assignment is, we've done SOAPStones on small text. This is on a long text now, okay? So here, for purpose and for subject, you are not going to be able to write down every single point. Here, I want you to try to be, get the main ideas. And I will tell you, I don't want to set up expectations too high. This is one of the top 10 speeches that I've ever read, okay? I read it every year.
Wait, what's the thing that we have to read? Didn't we have to read something?
By Tuesday,
No, by
habit
Monday.
book.
Yeah, that's for Jewish ethics, yeah.
That's for Monday.
And this is from, okay, yeah, because we also have Jewish, did I say Tuesday for Jewish ethics? I said Monday, yeah.
Oh, that
I
has
said
to
a
do
week
with
ago.
ethics?
Wednesday.
I have to do it tomorrow?
That's
It's a Wednesday, I thought it
Wait, let's do it. 'Cause
Okay, well, we'll check. Okay, hold on. Let me just go over this really quickly. So read this. This is water, which is I just gave you, and do the same thing you did with the 9/11 one, but this is just a longer speech. Okay, so same SOAPStone, and then I threw an extra credit at the end with the Rambam. Okay, a question about Rambam at the end because I think it connects. Now this next part, you don't have to do this now, but the SOAPStone sheet I gave you to explain what SOAPStone is, the first half had SOAPStone as a reader, but I also had SOAPStone as a writer. So I want you to read the lower half of that SOAPStone handout, and then write a piece that conforms to this specification. Here's what you're gonna write about. You're gonna write about personal preparation for Aseret Yemei Tshuva this year, your personal preparation. Your occasion is the context, which is that Aseret Yemei Tshuva starts in a week, or a little bit more than a week. And the exigence is if you don't mentally prepare for the Aseret Yemei Tshuva, you probably will not take advantage of it as much as you could. Okay, that's every year. The audience is you're gonna write for yourself like it's a journal entry, but the mediated audience is me, because I'm gonna be reading it. Okay, so like don't pour out deep, dark secrets that like you don't want me to know about, okay? Right, so be aware that I will read this. Your purpose is to outline goals, plans, and hopes for personal tshuva this year. Your speaker, who are you? You're speaking as yourself as a Jew and a human being who wants to improve. And your tone should be reflective, sincere, realistic, yet optimistic. Okay, as long or as short as you want. Okay? If you have any questions, feel free to email me.
Right, you're on like the bed. You guys really need to. I'm with like.
I know you guys are like running.